Last year in Japan, 208 people were found more than a year after they died. Not missing. Found. In their own homes, behind their own front doors, more than 365 days later. That is not an estimate. That is the National Police Agency counting bodies. And there is a website where you can look up the building it happened in. A map of Japan covered in little flame icons, one for every address where somebody died badly, with the room number attached. It has been running for 20 years, it is free, and by the end of this, you will know why the Japanese government has told estate agents in writing that they do not have to check it. Start with the map because everything else hangs off it. It is called Oshima Land, and it is a map of Japan with flame icons on it. Click one and you get an address, often a specific room number, and a line about what happened there. Murder, suicide, fire, a body that was not found for a while. The man who runs it is Manabu Oshima, born 1978, and Oshima Teru, the name on the site, is his grandmother's name. His mother died when he was in the 6th grade, and his grandmother raised him. His grandmother also owned rental buildings, and watching agents take 5 to 10% of her rent for doing, in his view, nothing, is a large part of why he did what he did next. He read economics at the University of Tokyo, went to graduate school at Columbia, and dropped out. His stated reason is blunt. He decided economists were frauds and that he would rather change the Japanese rental market. He launched the map in September 2005. Tokyo first, then the whole country, then overseas. By 2018, the Japan Times counted over 45,000 flames in Japan alone and 700,000 to 800,000 page views a day. Current numbers get quoted a lot higher, and I could not verify any of them, so let me stick with what I can stand behind. Tens of thousands of addresses. 20 years. Still running. And the obvious question is, how on earth that is legal? Which is where somebody sued him. A condominium owner in Yokohama went to court to get an entry deleted. The claim was that a listing about a body being abandoned in the building was fabricated, that it was defamatory, and that Oshima should take it down and publish an apology. Oshima represented himself. No lawyer. He won. The judgment became final in April 2011. And then the part that tells you who you are dealing with. After he had already won, the owner came back and offered him 500,000 yen, about $3,100, just to quietly delete the entry anyway. He refused. His position is that he corrects things that are wrong, and that is the entire list of reasons he will touch a listing. The way he keeps the site standing is deliberate and slightly cold-blooded. Anyone can post. He moderates for obvious abuse, and he leaves the typos in, on purpose. Because a site full of other people's spelling mistakes is visibly a platform and not a publication. And in his words, not being the speaker is non-negotiable from a litigation risk standpoint. For murders, he does the work himself. He follows the press, he sits in on trials, he takes the address straight out of the indictment, and then he goes and stands outside the building to check it. Suicides are much harder because there is often no reporting at all, so those come from tips. There is a real cost to this, and I am not going to skip past it. Families of people who died by suicide have reported being pushed into moving because neighbors found the listing. That objection has been made formally in a submission on Japan's National Suicide Prevention Framework and in a Bar Association report. The map does not distinguish between informing a buyer and marking a family. So that is the private half. Now the state half, and there is a word for it. If this is the kind of hidden Japan you want more of, go ahead and subscribe, because this is the only thing this channel digs into. The industry word is jiko bukken, roughly incident property. The legal concept underneath it is shinriteki kashi, which translates as psychological defect. That is the actual language. Japanese property law recognizes that a building can be structurally perfect, correctly priced, fully compliant, and still defective because of what a reasonable person would feel standing in it. The government has since started calling it something plainer. Disclosure of a person's death. Now here's the thing that surprised me most in all of this. There is no statute that says you must tell someone about a suicide. Not one. The obligation is assembled out of three separate pieces. The first is the Building Lots and Buildings Transaction Business Act, Article 47, which bans a licensed agent from failing to state anything that would materially affect the other side's decision. Break it, and you can lose your license. The second is Article 35 of the same act, the explanation of important matters. Death is not on the list, but the article opens with the words "at least the following," so the courts treat that list as unfinished. And the third is just good faith. Japanese courts derive a duty to explain directly out of the principle that you must deal honestly. That is what almost every damages award in this area actually rests on. Not a rule about corpses, a rule about honesty pointed at a corpse, which means the question of how long a house stays haunted, legally, has been decided by judges, and one of them decided 50 years. Tokyo District Court, Hachioji Branch, the 31st of August, 2000. A buyer purchased a plot of land in a farming and mountain village in western Tokyo. He was going to build a family home on it. The building that had been on it was long gone, demolished, nothing left but ground. What he was not told is that roughly 50 years earlier, a murder had happened there. The court's own description is that it was distinctive in its grotesquerie, and I am going to leave it exactly there because the point of this case is not the murder. The point is what the village did with it. It never let go. The plot sat abandoned, decade after decade, as ground nobody would go near. 2 generations passed, the building came down, and the story stayed attached to the dirt. The court found that in a community that small, with an event that distinctive, the stigma had transferred from the building to the land itself and had survived there for over 40 years. The seller was ordered to return the entire purchase price. Not a discount, not damages, all of it. And the agent was ordered to hand back its commission. 50 years, and a court said that is still recent. Now, to be fair to the law, that is not the whole picture, and the counter case is what actually shows you where the line sits. Tokyo High Court, 2013. A murder in a 2-story wooden apartment block in 2003. The building was demolished, and the land was sold about a year later. Neither the selling company nor the agent knew anything about it. A buyer built a house, lived there part-time for 3 years, found out, and sued. He lost. Both times. Where a building has been down for a year and there is nothing to make you suspicious, an agent has no duty to go digging. So, the 2 cases together give you the real rule, and it is not about time at all. It is about whether the neighbors remember. 50 years in a village where everyone knows, and the seller hands back every yen. 10 years in a Tokyo suburb where nobody talks, and you are on your own. Now hold that number, because the same country, dealing with the same problem, has since decided that in a rental flat the correct answer is 3. On the 8th of October 2021, Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism published guidelines on disclosing a person's death. It came out of a study group that had been running since February 2020. It is not binding, it says so itself. But regulators use it in disputes, which means in practice it is the rule book. 3 things in it matter. 1. Natural death and ordinary everyday accidents do not have to be disclosed at all. Ever. Old age, illness, falling down your own stairs, drowning in your own bath, choking on your food. The reasoning is in the document. Of 188,000 at-home deaths in the 2019 figures, about 90% were old age or illness, and if you had to flag all of those, you would be flagging most of the housing stock. 2, and this is the one everybody gets wrong. For everything else, murder, suicide, a death that needed special cleaning, a rental only has to be disclosed for roughly 3 years. 3 years from the incident, or from the day the body was found, roughly 3 years. Then you may stop mentioning it. And for sales, there is no time limit at all, which is why that 50-year judgment still stands. 3. The investigation duty. An agent discharges its obligation by handing the seller or landlord a form and asking them to fill it in. That is it. The document states in plain language that agents have no duty to canvass the neighbors and no duty to search internet sites. Read that last part again. The government has written down in a national guideline that the professionals selling you the flat are under no obligation whatsoever to open the one public resource that would tell them in about 9 seconds what happened in it. There is one crack in it, and it is the most useful sentence in this entire video. Regardless of how much time has passed, if the buyer or the tenant asks, the agent must tell them what its investigation found. So the whole system comes down to whether you know to ask a question. And there is a trick to get around even that. Tokyo District Court, the 10th of August, 2007. A single-room flat in Setagaya rent 60,000 yen a month, about $375. Someone had died in it. The court held that the landlord had to tell the next tenant. And then it held that he did not have to tell the one after that. That is the ruling that created the practice. Tell one person, then the clock is clean, and landlords industrialized it. If your disclosure obligation ends the moment one tenant has lived there, then the cheapest thing you can do is put that first tenant on a fixed-term lease so the tenancy expires quickly by design, and tenant number 2 walks into a flat with no history. This is not a theory. A Japan Property Management Association survey found that 35% of management companies stop disclosing after a single tenant turnover, and another 15% stop after 2. Roughly half the industry, off the hook after 1 or 2 occupants, no matter how many years have actually passed. Oshima publishes 5 warning signs for spotting one of these before you sign. A fixed-term lease with no obvious reason for it. Rent noticeably below the local market. One single unit freshly renovated in an otherwise untouched building, or just the bathroom redone. A building that got renamed or repainted right after it was in the news. And the strangest one, the flat next door or directly upstairs sitting permanently empty, because some landlords would sooner leave a flat empty forever than have the conversation. That is what the system produces. And there is a price list. Oshima has given the numbers directly, and they are unsentimental in a way I was not ready for. A murder in the property takes 40 to 50% off. A suicide takes 20 to 30% off. A kodokushi, a lonely death, somebody who simply died alone and was found late, takes about 10% off. And somebody who jumped from the building takes off between 0 and 5% because the death did not happen inside a flat that anyone has to live in. So the market has a hierarchy, and it is not about how sad it is about how much of it happened indoors. The courts have their own arithmetic, and it is even more precise. The standard model Japanese judges apply for a suicide and a rental is this. Year 1, the landlord recovers rent for a flat nobody lives in. Years 2 and 3, half rent. Year 4, back to normal. That is a court putting a depreciation schedule on a death. And landlords ask for far more than that. In the reported cases, one asked for 2.88 million yen and got 440,000, about $2,750. Another asked for 6.77 million across 4 flats and got 1.32 million for one of them. In 2022, a landlord asked for 5.64 million yen and was awarded 2.75 million, about $17,000. 2 to 5 times over routinely. There is a whole quiet industry of landlords trying it on, but somebody has to go into the flat first. The job is called tokushu saiso, special cleaning, and it exists because ordinary cleaners will not do it. What it involves is removal of fluids, deodorizing, disinfection, killing the insects, and then taking out whatever the floor and the walls have absorbed. In bad cases, the flat is stripped back to bare concrete and rebuilt. The insurance data tells you what that costs. Across 10 years of paid claims, the average restoration bill is 494,000 yen, about $3,100, and it is rising fast, up to 610,000 in the most recent year on materials and labor. The average clearance of the person's belongings runs another 294,000. The largest single restoration claim in the dataset is 7.56 million yen, about $47,000 for one flat. And then there is Miyu Kojima, born 1992, who started in this work in 2014 doing estate clearance and death scene cleaning. In 2016, she began building something on the side, and of everything I read for this video, it is the thing I would most like you to see. She builds miniatures, doll's house scale models of the rooms she cleans. Not because she is morbid, but because a photograph of one of those rooms is unpublishable and unbearable for a family to look at, and a model is not. So she makes the room in miniature and the family can look at it. Her position on the whole thing is worth quoting properly. She says it is unfair to label all of these deaths as lonely because a lot of the people she cleans up after had relationships right to the end. They just died on a day when nobody happened to be there. Which brings me to how many of them there are. On the 31st of March, 2026, the National Police Agency published its figures for the year. Bodies handled by police and how many of them belong to people living alone who died at home. Total bodies handled, 204,562. Of those, 76,941 died alone at home. 37.6%. Better than 1 in every 3 bodies Japanese police dealt with last year. 58,919 were 65 or over, which means almost 18,000 of them were not. And then the breakdown that changed how I think about this topic. The police record how long each person had been dead before anyone found them. 28,000 were found within a day. Good. Then it starts sliding. 15,000 at 2 to 3 days, 10,000 at 4 to 7, 7,500 at 8 to 14. Another 7,500 between 2 weeks and a month. 5,000 between 1 month and 3. 1,273 people were found between 3 and 6 months later. 472 between 6 months and a year. And 208 people were found more than a year after they died. 22,000 of them lay there for more than a week. 7,000 for more than a month. The insurance data adds one more thing, and it reframed the whole subject for me. Among lonely deaths in rental housing, 83% are men. The average age at death is 63, which is 22 years below Japanese life expectancy, and nearly half were under 65. And who finds them most often is not family. It is the building management company. So who buys these flats? It turns out, increasingly, people who want them. Before we get to the last part, do me one quick favor and tap the like button. I am still getting this channel off the ground, and it helps more than you would think. There is a Japanese comedian called Tanishi Matsubara, and in 2012 he moved into a jiko bukken as a bit for a television show. He has now lived in 12 of them. Osaka, Chiba, Tokyo, Okinawa. The economics are the point. A one-room flat in central Osaka in a building where a double killing had made the national news for 45,000 yen a month, about $280, roughly 2/3 of the going rate. Later, a two-room flat where a murder had happened for 26,000 yen, about $160 a month in Japan for 2 rooms. The agent would not tell him what had happened there, citing privacy. He found bloodstains under a tatami mat and pink paint smeared across the bathroom mirror. It was a local restaurant owner who eventually told him a man had been arrested in that flat for killing his mother. His books have sold over 250,000 copies. There is a feature film. And there is now a proper business. In 2019, a company in Yokohama launched Jobutsu Fudosan, which translates as Buddhahood Real Estate, the first brokerage in Japan dedicated entirely to buying and selling jiko bukken. Its founder's reasoning is the cleanest summary of this whole subject I've found. He kept seeing these properties come through the business at absurd discounts that almost nobody would touch and thought, a place that would sell at full price if nothing had happened comes down to nearly half. Is that really right? The name means 2 things at once. That a property finally rests when somebody lives in it again, and that houses, like people, pass on and come back. The investor version is colder and it works. Buy at 20 to 50% below market. Let at only a small discount. A flat that yields 6.4% bought normally yields 9.6% bought as a jiko bukken. And because the stigma discount expires after about 3 years, while your purchase price does not, your yield goes up over time. That is the machine. Japan built a disclosure rule to protect tenants, and the rule's expiry date created an asset class. There is one house I want to end on because it is the exception that explains everything else. On the 30th of December, 2000, 4 members of one family were killed in a house in Setagaya in Tokyo. The case has never been solved. 25 years. That house is still standing. The land around it is a public park now, owned by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. But the building itself still belongs to the bereaved family, and they have refused to take it down. In 2019, the police approached them about demolition, on the grounds that the external walls had cracked. The answer was no. So it sits there, inside a park, burgled, graffitied, broken into by people doing exactly the kind of nighttime dare I have talked about on this channel before. Every other property in this video has a price, a discount percentage, a disclosure window, and an expiry date. Japan has built an entire administrative apparatus for deciding when a death stops counting. And then there is one family who simply declined to participate. No sale, no cleaning contract, no 3-year clock, no flame icon that matters. They just kept the house. Because the entire system I have spent this video describing only works on properties somebody wants to sell. The disclosure rule, the discount percentages, the expiry date, the cleaning invoice, all of it is machinery for getting a building back onto the market. It has no answer at all for a family who never puts it there. I went into this assuming the map would be the strange part. It is not. The map is just a list. The strange part is the 3-year rule because 3 years is not a spiritual number or a legal tradition. It is a compromise. Somebody sat in a room and negotiated how long a stranger's death should follow a building around, and the answer they arrived at was about as long as one tenancy. And once you see that, you cannot unsee what it implies. Japan has not decided that death fades. It has decided how fast we are willing to be told about it. Those are completely different things, and only one of them is true. 208 people last year found more than a year later. For most of them, in 3 years, it will be legal to say nothing at all. So, how long do you think it should be? Not how long the law says. How long would you want to be told about if it was you signing the lease? Tell me below, with a number, and tell me why you picked it.